Guess I'll have to go a different route.
Ain't no need to prostrate yourself. If you want some of this whiskey, I'll teach you how to make it.
Oh my God, thank you! Oh boy, you had me in the palm of your hand there. About a second later, that would have been the other way around.
Hello and welcome back to the Futile Film Project. Last week I went and saw Redeeming Love. This type of film is not my usual cup of tea. A religious love story period piece? Yeah, no thank you. But I decided to go off the glowing review that Brad from Stone Gremlin Productions gave this film. Also, go check him out, link in the description down below. He said this film was a trip, and God almighty, he was right. Before we dive in, if you want to help me marry the town's best prostitute, hit that subscribe button down below. Now back to the show. I want to make one thing extremely clear about this film. It is graphic. This is not something that I would usually make a big deal about, as it doesn't bother me, but I wasn't expecting this film to go as far as it did. Redeeming Love got a PG-13 rating here in the US. I don't know who was reviewing this film, but they need to have their eyes checked immediately. It should be an R every day of the week. This is your content warning. If you are sensitive to any of the following subject matters, please turn this video off and protect your mental health. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one. For those of you who have chosen to stay, let's go. Redeeming Love was a book published in 1991. In 2022, they decided to release the film adaptation. Apparently, they're running out of books from this century to adapt. The film follows Angel, a woman who has had to endure the worst life I've ever seen depicted on film. Born to a wealthy man and his mistress, she was never wanted. The man cuts them off when she's about 8, and her mother has to start selling herself to make ends meet. Her mom becomes terribly ill and takes her last breath while they are laying face to face praying. Then, a man takes her into a brothel and sells her into sexual slavery as she has no one to take care of her. The owner of this brothel is a sadistic pedophile who has one of his goons kill the man that brought her here while he grabs her chin and makes her watch. Angel grows up in this brothel. One day her father comes in and she sleeps with him. This part of the film isn't very clear. I believe she did this to get back at him because she sends him a letter afterwards telling him that she was his daughter. He then promptly kills himself. She runs away from the brothel and sets sail for California. While on the boat, she, along with a couple other women there, have to sell themselves to stay alive. Once the boat docks, the other women jump her and steal her money. Now, this is where the film begins. Everything we just went over is told in flashbacks, but the rest of the film isn't much better. After she is left bleeding on the ground, she is picked up by a woman named Duchess and brought to another brothel. There, she becomes the most sought-after prostitute in this new gold mining town. Enter our male lead, Michael Hosea, the world's greatest Christian. A man who prays for a wife and then proceeds to pick the first woman he sees. This woman is, of course, Angel. He buys time with her to try to convince her to marry him, and after doing this multiple times, he gets his shot after she's been beaten and raped by the brothel's bodyguard. He pays off all of her debts, marries her on the spot, off camera, and takes her to his farm. From here, the story settles into a pretty boring cycle of Michael being super nice and Angel trying to go back to her old life. In many ways, the story heavily resembles that of Forrest Gump. And with as dark as this film is, I really thought that Angel was going to end up like Jenny. But eventually, we get our happy ending. This film is a slog to get through. It was only a little over 2 hours, but it really felt like 3. I went into this thinking it would be fun to make fun of, but it was played so serious that that wasn't going to happen. So, why are we talking about this film today? This film has one massive problem. Many of you might believe that it's the subject matter, which would be a perfectly valid critique, especially with a PG-13 rating. I don't have a huge problem with this. Many of the things that are added into this film seem like they're added in for shock value, which feels a little cheap, but overall, they told the story they wanted to tell. Maybe the acting is the problem. No. The acting in this film was superb. It was the best part of this film. Every actor gave it their all. Maybe the sets or lighting. No. Every piece of this film was made with care and attention. The issue with this film lies entirely in its adaptation from the book. The whole time I was watching this film, I couldn't stop asking myself, why does Michael want to be with Angel? For the majority of the film, she is 100% not into it. By the third time she runs away, it feels more like a bad joke. Just let her go. So what's the deal? Well, in an effort to make this story more mainstream, they cut out a very important piece. In the book, God talks to Michael, and this isn't some mysterious ways kind of thing. God and Michael have long passages where they speak directly. I've invited Kayla to come onto the show to read these passages for you. She is the one that cued me in on this glaring issue with the movie. So please, take it away.
Forget it. Just forget I ever asked for a wife. I don't need one that badly. Michael, I'll stay celibate. Michael, beloved. He kept walking. God, why her? Tell me that. Why not a gently reared girl, untouched until her wedding night? Why not a God-fearing widow? Lord, send me a plain woman, kind and enduring. Someone who would work at my side in the fields, plowing, planting, and harvesting. Someone who will get dirt beneath her fingernails but doesn't have it already in her blood. Someone to give me children, or someone with children already if it's not in your plan for me to have my own. Why do you tell me to marry a harlot? This is the woman I have chosen for you. Michael stopped, furious. I'm no prophet, he shouted at the darkening sky. I'm not one of your saints, I'm just an ordinary man. Go back and get Angel. It's not going to work, you're wrong this time. Go back.
Thank you for coming on and reading that for us. Please go check out Kayla's channel, link in the description down below. God specifically says that he needs to go get Angel, and suddenly the movie makes so much more sense. Michael is a man on a mission sent by God himself. His motivation is clear. By cutting this out of the movie, Michael's motivation is completely lost. In this film, he seems like a loser who latched onto the first woman he laid eyes on. Would this have made me like the film? No. The film was far too dark and cliche. But it would have made Michael a consistent character, and it would have made me root for him. These adaptations keep getting pumped out, but it becomes clear that they rarely know what makes the original piece work. It may seem like a small exclusion, but removing just one paragraph can completely ruin a character's motivation, and motivation is everything. To prove this point, take Walter White from Breaking Bad, a chemistry teacher who finds out that he's going to die of cancer. With nothing to leave his family, he decides that he's going to start making and selling crystal meth. Even in this short synopsis, Walter's motivation is clear. At the beginning of the series, this seems to be a somewhat moral choice. Kind of a modern day, would you steal bread to feed your family? One of the most gut-wrenching moments in the whole series is when Walter's motivation is removed. He's cancer-free. But there's no way that he can go back to teaching high school chemistry. He's fallen in love with the money, the respect, and the power that comes along with his new life. The viewer has to grapple with the fact that Walter is now, unquestionably, the villain. Now imagine that we're making a Breaking Bad book, and we just cut out the cancer stuff. Suddenly Walter's motivation is far less clear. He seems like maybe a chemistry teacher who took to making drugs for, I assume, money? Wow, that's actually still pretty good.
You're goddamn right.
It could be a scathing piece about how little teachers are paid, and how that's driven this man who wanted to teach the children into getting them hooked on a controlled substance. If anyone wants to make that, I'd buy a ticket. Regardless, removing that one piece completely changes the story and the way we look at the character. In the series, we see Walter do countless horrible things, from murder to poisoning a child, and yet the viewer is on board the entire time. In Redeeming Love, they don't make it clear what motivates Michael. And what we're left with is a man who seems to be just doing things. And that feels so empty. Thank you for spending your time with me. If you enjoyed this video, please click that subscribe button down below, and we'll all start pushing together.